Hello, Steve Mills here, and welcome to another podcast. It's fantastic to have you here and to be sharing with you some more tried, tested and proven ways in which you can grow your business, improve the effectiveness of what you do, make more profit and generally live a better life. How about that for an introduction? Today I'm joined actually by a gentleman called Hamish Shepherd. Now Hamish is my accountant. He's been my accountant for a little while now, and we have these sort of weekly calls with Hamish, which for me sets him apart from another accountant. Most accountants that I've worked with in the past are people that I speak to, once a year or something, and they tell me how well I did last year, whereas what Hamish does is right on the ball. It's every week in terms of, where are you, Steve? What have you done? You need to make sure that, you're allocating this money for this and so on and so forth. So he offers a fantastic service, and, he's certainly doing things for me that, I've been in business now for over 30 years. In that time, worked with several different accountants, and, he's doing things for me that, let's say, 99% of his fellow accountants don't necessarily do for their clients. So welcome on to the conversation, Hamish. I'll give you a great introduction there.
Thank you very much, Steve. I'm happy to be here.
My pleasure, and it's great to have you here today. Both Hamish and I have been recently reading a book and getting an understanding of a concept. I think it was something that I actually heard on somebody else's podcast, a guy called Dan Bradbury, and he was interviewing somebody, and the subject that he was talking about was profit first. Now, I'm sure Hamish should totally agree that profit normally comes from the profit that, we have a turnover. Let's say we turn over, £1 million, just to use a round figure. We turn over £1 million, costs us £700,000. And then whatever's left at the end, after, the business has, we've done our financial year, is a profit. So I've got £300,000 in profit. But the idea behind profit first is pretty much to do it the other way around, which I like the idea of. And that is that we take out our profit first. And so I've just started implementing this. I spoke to Hamish about it, and I think Hamish is implementing it in his business and certainly helping me to do the same. So without sort of putting you on the spot, Hamish, do you want to explain this concept of profit first and how it works?
Yeah, sure, Steve. Basically, there was a gentleman, now I might pronounce his name wrong, but Mike Karlovics.
You've done very well there, yeah.
He came up with the Profit First book, and basically what he was saying was that for a lot of business owners out there, the old traditional way of looking at profit, as you said before, after turnover, less your costs, giving you profit, and then that profit then gets allocated to the business owner, was slightly outdated. And because of things like, accountants coming along and doing all the the smart things that we try and do within year-end accounts and everything like that, at times it skews the fact that, the profit that you've got there might not actually be the same as the cash in the bank. So where Mike comes from in his book is basically along the lines of looking at the cash basically comes into the business. It's one of these kind of things where, obviously it's not really a sale until you get the cash in the door.
Sure.
And what he then says is, any cash you've got coming into your bank, you basically then allocate between 3 or 4 different bank accounts on different percentages based on what your target allocation is. And then you're then able to take that profit as and when you make it throughout the year, rather than having to wait to the year end and finding out whether you've made a profit or not.
Yeah. That's a big thing for me. I've been, literally when £100 comes into my business, I'm trying to achieve a profit of 25%. And so £100 comes in, I take 25 out and put it in a bank account that I call my profit account. And I love it because it's growing. I'm getting more and more profit and I can see it there. And it's absolutely fantastic.
And I think as well, Steve, the kind of the mechanics of it we can maybe touch on maybe in a little, couple of minutes. But it really is that kind of thing where if you get those percentages correct, and you get those percentages under control and, your cost percentage under control
Sure.
and things like that, then, yes, you do see that building. And because you're looking at it on a kind of, I think he actually suggests looking at your bank balance on a daily basis and actually doing it daily, then it focuses your mind on the cash that's coming in rather than the profit you should be making or the profit you think you're making.
Yeah.
Because, I've seen it in a number of clients where basically they get to the year end and they've taken out, X amount of money out of the business, looking to put dividends through the business to actually, pay themselves or whatever, and there just isn't the cash there to actually, pay
Sure.
for it. And what this is doing is really focusing your mind on a kind of, on almost a daily basis, on what cash is coming in and what that cash actually means to you personally in your back pocket.
Yeah, you're so right, Hamish. I think, I remember, many years ago, I started off, my adult life, as it were, buying a little flat up in Sheffield, and I'd been in there 6 months, and all of a sudden I'd got nowhere to put anything. I then bought a house, a 3-bed house, and eventually I got a 5-bedroom house. And I think, wow, I've got all this space, all this room. But sure enough, pretty quickly all that space got taken away, and all of a sudden, a couple of years later, I'd got nowhere to put anything. And I think that's a little bit like business. You turn over, as a really small business, let's say, maybe turn over 100 grand, and the costs are give or take a little bit, so they're not really making a great deal of profit in it. And then all of a sudden they grow that business, and maybe a year or two later they hit 200,000, but they're still not making very much profit, which is never a good thing. Turning over 10 million a year with 10,100,000 costs is not exactly where you want to be. And the idea of not leaving it to chance but taking your profit first it's a very unusual thing, I think, for an accountant to look at. But I think it's a brilliant concept. I really do.
Mm-hmm. And the way I've been, one of the things that we try and do at Crunchers is basically, try these things out ourselves to see if they actually work before actually then being able to, recommend them or talk to them about, potential
sure.
clients.
Yeah.
And what I've found, Steve, was basically the mechanics of it. It's a simple concept, basically. And the concept, or to actually put it into place, is basically set up. I think I set up 4 bank accounts myself.
Okay.
But I think Mike actually suggested another couple of ones.
Okay.
And those bank accounts were, actually having a physical bank account for profit, one for tax, one for owner costs, basically, or owner salary, and one for your operating costs as well.
Okay.
So you have those 4 accounts set up. And then what you have a look at is what they call your current allocation percentage. And basically that is, at the moment or in the last 12 months, say, what is the percentage of your operating costs compared to profit or compared to sales, sorry.
So this is getting an understanding of where you are now. So you're not all of a sudden saying, right, okay, I'm going to make 25 or 50% profit, but it's understanding what profit you've made over the last year, yeah?
That's right. So that's your kind of your starting point. So, for example, you might make a 10% profit. Your tax might be, and remember, it's tax isn't. It's tax as a percentage of your sales. So That could be 20%. It could be less, depending on what your business is and things. Your owner costs, so what you need to take out of the business as a salary, basically, and your operating costs is obviously your working capital day to day to pay your suppliers and all these kind of things. And you have a current allocation percentage, but in this book he actually quite helpfully puts in a target allocation percentage as well, based on businesses. It's business size actually. It's based on, and it's based on the number of employees you've got within the business. So if you've got 1 to 5 employees, it gives you a target allocation percentage, and then so on all the way up to larger and larger companies. And the view is that you start off with your current allocation percentage, but you should be moving towards your target at all times. So if, for example, your operating costs are maybe 70% of your income at the moment, what you're kind of looking towards is you're trying to take that down to, say, 50%. But as you said, you start off with your current allocation percentage, and then that's when you start focusing in on reducing your costs, and you start, getting rid of any costs that maybe you don't need or maybe are not essential within your business.
I think it's, as I said, going back to my house analogy, the more room you've got, the more you spend. It's sort of, it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another example. If I've got, or maybe £500 a month that I spend personally on things for me, then, pretty much I'm going to spend that. If that's reduced to 400, then I spend that. I spend at the level I've got. And I think as a business owner, my mentality is that if I've not got the money to spend, in other words, that 25% is already allocated, it's already disappeared out of my account, then I've got to run my business on the rest of the money that I've got in my main account and not in my profit account. And therefore, to make that profit, I've got to be able to run my business and pay my bills based on the 75% that I've got left. That's the way I've been looking at it. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I think that's exactly right, Steve. And I've seen a lot of people, a lot of business owners who maybe grow their business. But then they look at how much money they're actually, they maybe double their turnover, for example. But if they actually then look at the amount of money that they're actually taking home, it's exactly the same. And really all that they're doing at that point is they're getting busier and busier, but they're not actually reaping any kind of benefits from that increased turnover. And what you sometimes find is that they take on staff or something like that, and all this extra work and stress and hassle that they're doing is basically just going towards paying their staff rather than actually getting any benefit for themselves to the owner. And I think what having these percentages do is, as you say, it means that, if you double your turnover, then you're actually focusing on what does that actually mean to you personally out with the business. So, you see your profit percentage possibly remaining the same, but as a pound note value, if you double your turnover, then that will increase as well,
absolutely,
kind of proportionally. So, and it does focus that on, it means that you're not letting your costs run away with you. And you're keeping track of your costs on an ongoing basis.
It's so incredibly important, isn't it? The old saying in business that income is vanity and profit is sanity. It's so true. It doesn't matter what your income is. All it matters is what your profit is, really, when it comes down to it, I think. And as we all know, there are only 2 ways that I'm aware of that you can make more profit. One is to reduce costs, and that's a key thing, because we can often do that instantly and very quickly. We can say 5% here and 10% there in almost every business. And then the others, obviously, is increasing sales and, looking at marketing and increasing sales through being more effective in that area is a real key. And I think, if you look at any business and you look at what Michael Gerber says in the E-Myth, he says that every business has got 3 departments. You've got marketing, selling the stuff. You've got operations doing the work, and then you've got finance, which is measuring the money. And I think one of the biggest problems that I see with business owners is that they're very good operationally. You know, they're good at what they do for a living. So the landscape gardener starts his own landscape gardening business because he's been doing it for 20 years. He's an absolute expert in it. He knows everything they could, he would ever need to know about landscape gardening. But obviously, when it comes to marketing, often, let's say the level of knowledge is not as required. And the same on the finance side, they don't fully understand. I hear stats from accountants telling me that, most business owners spend less than 4 minutes looking at their end of year accounts. And and most can't read a cash flow forecast or, a balance sheet and so on and so forth, which for me is always, it's a really worrying statistic, that we've got people out there with their livelihoods, their world, their house, their family and everything, and they don't know enough about finance and marketing to really be doing those three departments in their business justice.
I think that's right, Steve. Basically, Mike in Profit First book basically says that, look at your cash coming in on the 10th and 25th and, do those allocations and, make sure you kind of know what's happening ongoing. With regards to what you said about, the 5 minutes on year-end accounts and a business owner reviewing year-end accounts, in ways I can actually understand that because again, the year-end accounts are all historic. It can be 9 months after the year-end before you actually get them.
Yeah.
And I think really, as well as knowing where you're at today's date, what you really need to be doing as a business owner is what's going to happen next month and the month after. Yeah. And that's where, you kind of touched on cash flows and forecasts and things like that, and key performance indicators and these kind of things that can give you a bit of a heads up, months in advance of any issues or any potential kind of pitfalls that are coming along. That's what's probably more important to business owners, and that's really where accountants should be coming in as well and actually helping them with the future rather than always kind of harping back to the past and harping back to year-end accounts. Yeah, absolutely. I agree totally. And that's, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, that's where you've come in and helped me with particularly our conversations every week. We just actually, before we started this podcast, we had a conversation all about exactly what we're talking about right now. Where are we now and what do we need to do and what's coming up and so on and so forth. So we're just about at the end of our time, Hamish. So I just thought I'd give you an opportunity just to tell all the listeners, if they wanted to contact you and find out more about the service that you offer, what's the best way of doing that? Do you have a website, telephone number? What's the best way for them to contact you? There's a number of ways that people can get in touch. Obviously, I've got a website, which is accountantsedinburgh.co.uk, and there'll be a contact details on there where they can get in touch. Again, they're welcome to get me on my phone, which is 0131 5020 543. And also, Steve, if it's okay with yourself, I'll give you my contact details as well. I don't know if you can put them on where you've got the podcast or not, or I can leave them with yourself anyway. So if anybody wants to get in touch, they can get in touch through yourself as well. Yeah,
sure. I can definitely do that. And all else fails, you can contact me as well, and I'll put you in touch with Hamish. We've got a couple of websites for me. We've got stevemills.co, which is my advisory website with all the training and advice on business. And then if you need somebody to do the work for you, go to theprudentmarketer.com, or indeed call me on 01256 242 272. So that's about it. Thank you ever so much for listening. Go and buy the book. Go and buy Profit First. I'm sure you'll get it on Amazon. Hamish and I, sadly, are not on commission here, but we just found something that's really useful to business owners, and we want to share it and help, improve your business and your life and so on and so forth. So that's about it. Thank you very much for listening. And as ever, take action, and I look forward to speaking to you again next time. Thanks very much.